Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Most Important Seconds After the Pit. We are going to be discussing episode 12 today, and it'll be 6 p.m. My co host, good friend here, Keely, what is going on?
Good morning, everybody. It's hard to believe we're already at 6 p.m. I even though we've been doing this for weeks, it's hard to believe that we're already at 1800 hours.
Right, even though it's 10:13 a.m. today on
It
April
is.
3rd.
It is Good Friday.
Yes, it is Good Friday. For those who do observe that day, happy Good Friday and all, and have fun at your fish fry. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, that'll
Yes.
that'll be good. um, so we were talking about this just before we went live, and we've been doing this since about January, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere around
Yeah.
there.
It has to be, right? Because that's when we were in Pittsburgh. It
That's
has
right.
it has
So for anyone, as we do each week, for anyone who is joining in who has not been here before, Keely, run us through a summary who you are, and then I'll jump in as well.
hello, everybody. I'm Keely. No. Welcome to
Don't be nervous now.
So I'm Keely, and actually newly appointed, new title for Rapid SOS Marketing Manager. I am over here. Whoop, whoop.
Yep.
So I'm over on the Rapid SOS team, and we had an amazing opportunity to jump on a sponsorship for a premiere to support healthcare workers inside Allegheny General. We, of course, jumped at the opportunity because any opportunity that Rapid SOS has to support or sponsor first responders, we take it, of course, because that's what we do. And we got to go to Allegheny General in Pittsburgh, which is where the Pitt is modeled after. And we got to spend the day, all day, started at 7:30 in the morning. By the time I got there, I could hardly get to our booth, not realizing the crowds. I don't even think the folks from HBO were expecting the crowds that we had that day, that morning, that all day long. There was like a brief moment where it kind of like got a little like dissipated in the room, but other than that, it was full of people, full of conversation. We got to, spend time with people that were freshly out of the ER, scrubbed out of the OR, and came down to spend some time, get some mocktails, hang out together, and just be a part of that interaction. And then we also that evening got to see the episode 2 premiere before it went live on streaming on HBO Max. And in just incredible experience to sit in a room together. And we had invited field responders and first responders from the whole connective thread of emergency response, from the 911 call takers all the way through and up through the OR and ICU and nurses. And it was such an experience to just be in the same room, experience that together. There's just something about watching a show where you all are like from the same mindset, and then like doing it in a room, like in an auditorium with everybody, the laughter, the dark humor. It was a really just incredible experience, and we were very humbled to be able to support. And then you, my friend, were in Butler County doing a media press event with the crazy incredible team at Butler County, and that was just what we got to do that day. And what an experience.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. And for those joining who might not know who I am, I'm Ricardo Martinez. I am the creator and host within Trenches podcast, as well as the founder of the I Am 911 movement. I was a dispatcher for over 13 years, as well as supervisor on the line. I've been in public safety for over 2 decades, and I partner with Rapid SOS, the partner for the podcast and everything. We've actually been friends and everything forever, since like the beginning of the company, and the time that I've been on the private side as an industry partner. So we've got a lot of history. So it was an honor to be able to be asked to go out there, do some behind the scenes, be out there in Butler County to do this media event. I think last week when we talked, we mentioned the one box of pizza that we got to take with us, and yeah, we had backseat pizza, and I say that because that that box of pizza was in the back of my car until the next day, I think, maybe, or after I dropped everyone off. I don't know.
I
It was there for a long
No,
time.
I think we threw it out when we
Did
we
we?
dropped. Yeah, I think we did. I think we threw it out that evening, but like I was so jealous when I got in the car because Sue and I did not get to step away because there were so many people visiting our booth. We really didn't get a chance to step away until I don't even know. We tried at one point to head to the cafeteria, which by the way, we didn't know where the cafeteria was at first. And the people at Allegheny General, what an incredibly friendly group of humans. And I know that they work in like the trenches, right? Like they really deal with, people, society, people who are experiencing medical emergencies that are, demanding. And they were like, oh, let us show you where it is. Cause we just really needed something to drink at that moment. And this one beautiful human, and I never caught her name, walked us to the cafeteria, and she wasn't even going that way. Like she was going in the complete opposite direction. And it was like she walked us there and like dropped us off. She's like, yeah, it's right here, and she's like, I highly recommend the smoothies. And it was like, you weren't even going this.
Oh,
It was like, no, no, but I wanted to make sure you found it. Like, oh,
well, okay. So that is awesome. Before we bring our guest up here to discuss this episode, I do want to mention that in this most recent episode, and you know what? Again, 6 minutes in, spoiler alert.
spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler
If
alert!
you have not watched episode 12, and this whole time that we've been doing this, we've been staggering episodes so that if you have not had a chance to watch in the week, spoiler alert, because we haven't watched the one that aired yesterday.
Correct.
So that's, and
That
we
is so
get,
we
again,
don't accidentally drop some things. Like we
right.
do that intentionally
It
so
takes a
that
lot of
we
discipline.
yes, it really does. Cause like I want to go on to the next episode and I know
Right.
you do too, but we do that so that we don't accidentally slip, give you guys a chance to watch it. And really want to be able to be careful on how we deliver it, especially since this is like we're trying to show the similarities between the hospital environment and our field responders, our first responders. We want to make sure that we are making that connection without
Right.
slipping.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. The technology, how it connects everyone, helps everyone be safer together. But the reason I bring this up really quick before we bring our guest on is because you mentioned the cafeteria. And in this episode,
Oh, yeah.
one of the doctors goes, we've got, a fabulous cafeteria here. And one of the other doctors goes, really? We have
Don't
a
lie to her.
cafeteria. And then, yeah. And
Don't
then
lie to
they
him.
end up saying, we have a cafeteria here. If you, so it's good to know that in real life, it is good. And it's recommended.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in the
It
show, it's like,
was good. We didn't get we
yeah,
got snacks. I think we got like muffins or something like that just to hold us over. But like we didn't have time because we didn't want to leave the booth alone.
for
We
sure.
ran out of swag. It was like that's how many people were there. Like these staggering amounts of people that just came through, and we were playing 13 seconds. And if for those of you out there, if you don't know what 13 second is, please go over to our website, check out rapidsos.com. There is a mini documentary in there that kind of shows firsthand what emergency response looks like. And really, I can't say enough about the team in Cass County who helped us recreate that story. And that's what we got to play like on a loop at our booth. And people were like looking at it, watching, wanting to learn, understanding what happened. And that's actually how we met Dr. Rao, which is the doctor who the likeness of Noah Wiley's character is made out of. And he's been on the show. He's been an incredible. Oh, Anthony. Yes, Anthony is one of the members from Cass County, and he is in here today with us. So hi, Anthony.
Yeah.
So that was the team that helped us recreate that 13 seconds documentary, and we can't say enough about the team. They've been incredible. They're actually going to join us. If you are a Rapid SOS user and you are inside community for Telecomputers Week, we are going to have the director of that agency come on and talk about what it was like to film that documentary. So really super glad that you're in the audience there, Anthony. Thanks for
Yeah.
joining.
And without further ado, our guest today is going to be Brett, and he is Director of Healthcare with Rapid SOS. Hello.
Hi there, Ricardo and Keely. How are you?
We are doing well. I love the piano that you have in the background.
Yes.
I dig it.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
I can hear it. We are excited to have you on here. We had a meeting yesterday and we were talking about a few things and we had a lot of fun with you and stuff. So we're looking forward to having you on here. For those who are watching and listening, just kind of a quick summary background of yourself, please.
Sure. So my name is Brett Shamish. I have been in health technology for about 17 years now. Got into the space accidentally, born of a personal illness, had an autoimmune disease, built an app, started a business and sold it into health tech. Have been in various leadership capacities, largely product, ever since for many different health tech companies, largely working with payers and some pharma and health systems who are typically the payers of a particular customers for particular products, and patients and providers are using those products. As noted, I'm director of healthcare for Rapid SOS, which means I take all of our capabilities, our wonderful capabilities within the company, and apply them to the healthcare vertical in pursuit of better patient outcomes, lower costs, those types of things. So psyched to be with you guys today. Should be a fun discussion. Welcome break to my normal day. And the dog's happy with his bone over here. So as long as you don't say TREAT or PARK or anything like that, I think it could be an uninterrupted session today.
Absolutely no promises, Brett.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
not to.
I would say we'll try to stay away from the trigger words.
Good work.
Yeah. So it is good to have you on and everything. And so actually, this episode that we're talking about is kind of your introduction to the show and everything. So I got to know right off the bat, just from what you saw on some of these things, what were your thoughts? Because a lot of people have said, and I feel out of all the ones that I've seen as well, that it's pretty accurate. I mean, and it looks real. Like they did a lot of work. They did a lot of their homework and just everything going into it to make it as real as possible.
Very relatable, very topical. As Ricardo mentioned, I have not seen much of the show. I did watch episode 12 and enjoyed it. I'm going to have to find time now in my schedule to watch the episodes. But very relatable, very topical. I can't speak to the clinical language. I don't know how accurate that is. But in terms of what's going on, a great example, when the boy had to drive an hour and a half because one of the local hospitals was closed. It's a big issue going on in rural health across the country, hospital closures. So all very topical and very relevant. So I enjoyed it.
Now, when we're talking about that part there, it made me think about something because you had sent us some notes, and I was reading through them and everything, and that specific part with the kid driving his dad an hour and a half, it reminded me of a call. So as we talk about the technology, we talk about connecting a lot of these things and imagining how this came in. So for this specific portion, it reminded me of a call that I took years ago in the middle of the night. It was a spouse who called that their spouse was having difficulty breathing, had some like heart attack symptoms going on and everything, but they did not want to stop. They did not want to pull over. And I went along with what they were saying to get them to the hospital because I literally knew exactly where they were. Like there was a specific fast food chain that they were at. I said, turn left there. You're going to go north for a while until you get to a T in the road and you're going to turn right. You're going to follow that all the way till you get, and I was giving him all these landmarks. And he goes, how do you know all of this? And I said, because I grew up in that area. I know exactly where you're at. And he gets to the hospital. But during that time, I end up sending a message over to my coworker to say, I need you to call Holland Hospital, call the ER, let them know what I have and what's going over there, and I'll keep you updated on how close they are. When they pulled up, I'm getting chills right now talking about it. When they pulled up, they were waiting outside, and the person just kept saying, thank you. And I got off the phone. I thought, I'm glad I got that call, because anybody else, like, they might have been not arguing, but trying to get the person to stop and pull over. Because usually that's what we tell people right off the bat, like, pull over so we can get EMS out to you. But I knew exactly where they were, and they were not far. So when you think about that, like, that is what I would say legacy. Now, in the next generation type, how do we think about connecting that technology and how we can direct people a lot better that way? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, so much to unpack there. Namely, that the fast food spot triggered the memory of where you were. So much to say about that. We all know the fast food spots.
Yeah.
So today, we're connected to all these IoT devices. We know what's going on in the field. We can detect these 911 calls and locations. So there should be, pretty great communication between the incident and the ED that's going to accept the incident. So we've made, tremendous advancements there. I think there's a lot more that can be done. I was struck by a recent conference I went to. So HIMSS is one of the premier healthcare conferences of the year. And I went up to the booths of the large EHR providers, the Epics and Oracles, formerly Cerner, to just get a sense of how they do the intake at EHRs in the ED department, ED module of the EHRs. And I was struck by, a lot of it is still sort of legacy call radio. The intake person is putting in the chief complaint and some of the details, and there's opportunities for errors there, and just sort of a slower process. So I think there's things we can do to definitely improve that process. I was a little bit naive, admittedly, to all of the reasons that information and data is so important to prep the OR and to really downstream the actual decisions that the trauma surgeons may make. Some of the telematics data, some of the other data actually matters from the scene. So I think the more we appreciate that and the more we send that data in advance, I think the better the outcomes are going to be. So we've come a long way. We've got a long way to go.
Yeah, exactly. And Keely, from your side as an EMT as well, just as Brett was saying, having that information right off the bat, all of these different things. I think some of the things we were talking about as well yesterday that we were going to talk about today too is if it were a crash, the impact side, or how fast they were going. What are your thoughts on all of that, Keely?
It's so incredible because when I started my career, I was paper charting. I was just close to having slates and tapping things out on slates in my career. So when I started, and we didn't have cell phones when I started, so we didn't have the ability to even take pictures or do any of that thing. We had to be very really micro in our reporting to be able to get over to the ED, to the trauma centers, and be like, this is what's happening with our patient. This was the intrusion into the passenger compartment. This was the intrusion into the driver compartment. There was a snapped steering column that had protruded into the driver's seat or was inside the driver's leg. And all of that matters in the decision making. So we had to be prescriptive in exactly how we were delivering that information to the trauma center, because that's going to determine what treatment the patient gets. Then fast forward, as we started moving into having cell phones, we started taking pictures, right? We were on scene with our personal cell phones, taking pictures of what the vehicle looked like, what the collision looked like, what the trauma looked like, right? With the distance of fall, you can't really measure it, right? But we can show they fell off of this platform onto this surface, right? Because that is different. If they fall into a body of water, maybe you're not as concerned if they fall on concrete, right? So it does affect treatment as soon as you arrive into the ED. And then being able to, Brett and I talked about this yesterday, still to this day, we are using the HEAR radio system. And for those of you in the space who do not understand what a HEAR radio system is, it's essentially a phone or a specific, looks like a CB radio that sits in the back of an ambulance, and you pick it up, and it is a direct call into the trauma center or to the ER facility, and they're done by frequency numbers, right? So while we are starting to move away from that, it still exists in a lot of places in the nation where you are keying up this technology and you're XYZ ambulance service to ABC hospital, and you have to wait. You are waiting now while you're still transporting the patient, still treating the patient in the back of the ambulance, and you're trying to give report so that the appropriate physicians, the appropriate teams inside the ED can be prepared for that pass off. But again, you're giving it as prescriptive as you can from a verbal report. But imagine now the technology is there where we can maybe ship all of this stuff over in advance. And, we had Mir on a lot. Was that last week? I don't remember. The week before.
A couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, we had Mir from Avive on, and some of the things that Avive AED is now able to deliver in real time is the the heart rates, the heart rhythms, right? So like the hospital staff, like your STEMI teams, your teams that are dealing with your cardiac incidents can take a look at what is being delivered in real time before the patient has ever hit the doors. And they can now draw up medication, maybe get, some ORs open, maybe get some other teams put on alert that maybe need to be there that can, mitigate what is happening with the patient. And we talk about this and Brett and I talked about this yesterday too, that golden hour, right? Where we're talking about, especially traumas, where they've got so much time from point of phone call to getting into an OR to be able to effectively save a patient's life. And now what we're doing is we're narrowing that golden hour, right? Where we're starting to bring that time in because we're delivering this information in. And this way they're not getting into the trauma center. They're not always taking a high level quick trauma assessment of the patient and then deciding they need the OR or then deciding they need a specific surgeon. Instead, we can get that data delivered. And imagine, like, we can trigger words, right? Like we've got communicator for Rapid SOS, right? Like what happens if we can take a word, like we know it's a fall over 20 feet, right? How far was the fall? That's one of the questions. Ricardo knows that. How far did he fall? And what surface did they land? Yes, EMT protocols, right? Like, and they're out there, and we've got total response, right? That has these protocols in place to trigger certain questions. And now we're able to trigger those words. And then what if we could in the future deliver that and say, hey, we've got this call that's just come in. It could come to the local facility, the local trauma center. This is what we're seeing. And now they start to notify or trigger alerts in the hospital that putting teams on standby so that we're not waiting for those teams to become available. They are available by the time that patient arrives in the hospital. And we're not using analog systems. We talked to Ben, right, for our product team. We talked to Ben, and Ben was like, it just blows his mind, the still analog systems that we are using when we know that we've got the technology that exists to hurry these processes along. It's incredible to see where we've come, but as to Brett's point, we still have a long way to go because we have to get people on these safety networks, got to get them talking to each other. We've got to make that happen. And it's, it's not an easy process, especially when things have lived in disparate silos for so long,
What do you think those drawbacks, or not so much the drawbacks, but holding back on that is, Brett? Is it money? Is it that people don't like change? Like, what are some of those things that you think might be, I guess, stifling that innovation?
There's a bunch of things stifling innovation, but if I had to sort of boil it down to one thing, I'd say the mapping of incentives. It's not so much the technology. The technology exists. There's even standards with FHIR and HL7, and data transfers are sort of becoming easier and easier. It's mapping the incentives. So let's use the example of, why doesn't a major EHR have the ability to automate the data intake from an EMS situation? They do. The data exists, the connections exist. They would do it. What they want is one of their big customers to say that we want this. Now, why doesn't that happen? Right? So a whole host of reasons. It's not because they don't want it to happen. They've got a bunch of projects that they've got going on at their health system. Maybe it's not prioritized. Maybe they don't even know that it's a possibility. Also, how much does it help them with the improvement of care? The incentive boils down to sort of funnels down to the payer who's bearing the risk for that particular member. So it's about the mapping of the incentives more than it is about the technology. But there's increasingly a shift from what's called fee-for-service to value-based care. So that's kind of helping things. And you're starting to see a little bit of this happen. And we're starting to dig our teeth into this problem ourselves. We're a little bit we're at the early stages, but we're a little bit further along than you might think in terms of recognizing what happens during the call using Harmony and AI, and then what we call routing to appropriateness of care. So a lot of times, so there is the downstream, like Keely mentioned, get it to the OR and have them prepared for the situation. But a lot of calls come in that are not emergent, that require a different level of care. And so recognizing that and routing that appropriately is starting to happen, which is to the benefit of all. It's really one of these unique win-win-win situations. The patient's, not sitting there waiting unnecessarily in the emergency room, and they're getting better care. Maybe it's lower cost to them. The payer's saving money. The health system isn't wasting time on things that are non-emergent. So there is, a benefit to all. And so we're increasingly stepping, closer and closer to that being a reality.
So here's a question. What are your thoughts about how technology was even 10 years ago to the way it is now? I mean, there's been leaps and bounds.
Oh, that's a loaded question. So I would say, listen, AI has changed the game completely, exponentially, and will continue to. And there's a lot of exciting opportunities. I think that technology advances at a much more rapid rate, no pun intended, than the bureaucracy and incentive flows of healthcare and our sort of hardened system. So there's always going to be that lag. In fact, when I started 17 years ago, it was called Health 2.0, the health tech movement. Technology is easily 25, 30 years behind. I mean, I've worked in other sectors and media sectors. If programmatic advertising is a great example. So somebody's in the market for a 4-door sedan. We know exactly what they want, when they want it, how to reach them, how many devices they have, exactly where they are, can get to them. The technology exists. It's more about mapping all these flows and incentives. So the technology has allowed for many advancements. I think about currently, prior auth is becoming a lot easier. Benefits checks are becoming a lot easier and faster. That's having a strong benefit. But the mapping of these incentives is still where it was, at least 10 years ago. So I think that's where a lot of the changes are going to have more impact.
Yeah, I agree. There's even from just the time where I was getting out of dispatch and going into being an industry partner on the private side, things were already starting to change, and people were talking about that next generation of 911, and they're still talking about the next generation of 911, and it's been here for a while. And but more and more people are starting to come into it, but AI is coming into it as well. And Keely, for you, thinking about what it was like when you were in dispatch, because you were in dispatch longer than I was, a little bit further, and you got to have some of these even pilot programs, right, going on with some of this newer technology and stuff. What has it been for you to see where it was when you were getting out, and or even in the beginning? Because there's that what was dispatch like back in the 90s? So so from that all the way up to now with AI, like what are your thoughts?
I have to say this, that what was dispatched, like I'm working on that project currently, and the pictures that I have gotten in and what we were working on. I mean, like I started my career, and I know we've talked about this before, where I had a single giant computer screen that was a dot matrix screen. And really my CAD was just to let me know where the officer was, and not it didn't do anything else. We
No.
had to track the incident report numbers. We had a clipboard, and like if they had the incident, we wrote the incident. If they also needed a report, we had to track the report number. Do you know how many times we overlapped reports numbers, or like nobody could read the chicken scratch from the shift before, so we didn't know what it was? And then I got to be a part of the transition to an internet based CAD system. And that alone was like staggering, right? Like that was like, oh, I can do a lot more with this.
It's not just command
And
line.
it's just not just command prompts, right? And I mean, let's talk about NCIC, right? So those of you out there who don't know what NCIC is, your National Crime Information Center, right? Like that's the big system that is used nationwide for us to track things like stolen vehicles, wanted people, stolen articles. And we had to know the command lines to make that entry, like NJ012220 dot, like you did those things. And there was a book like this big that you
I
had to
can't
go and
remember. I can't
reference.
believe you remember some of that stuff.
So that is actually the NJ012220 is actually my first agency, and that's why I can in my sleep, right? So but these are things like we were asking our people to know those manual processes, right? We were asking our people to be a part of those manual processes. And now we're watching in the pit where they are now going back to those manual processes, right?
Yep.
Where they have to know how to go back to a whiteboard, how to track where their patients are, how to track what rooms they're going into. And it's no different. Like we had, when our system failed, we had to go to the whiteboard and be like, district 1 is over here, district 2 is over here, and this is the call they're on, and these are my calls that I've got stacked. And it's the same thing. Like the ER is dealing with this right now because they're afraid of a cyber attack because their neighboring agency just had a ransom attack, right? So like I think there's like this, when you see what we did, and where we've come, and then the discussions of next gen, right? Like we've been talking about next gen since I started. And then there are some agencies that have accepted and adopted the new technology and others that didn't. But then I don't think when we started having those conversations, we thought AI was going to be a thing. Like we joked about AI, and it was like when we joked about AI, we joked about it in the sense of like, can you imagine calling 911 and it's like push 1 for fire, push 2 for EMS, push 3 if you need law. And it is not that. It is AI is not that. And I think the problem is, and you're seeing it on the show too, right? Like you've got Dr. Robbie who is saying, I don't want to use AI or listen to the translation transcription that they're using. And then you've got Dr. Al Hashimi who is like, let's use this because it helps cut that process in half for our doctors and for our staff, right? Like for our teams, this AI that is here, that it's in existence, isn't that push 1. It's not getting in the way, and it shouldn't be. Like if your AI is getting in the way, it's not correct. Like you've picked the wrong thing. But if it is supporting, it is co-piloting what is the expectation of your teams, then you picked the right AI. And I think, when we started having those next gen conversations, we never imagined that AI was going to be in that loop, at least not where it is today. And now when you're looking at like the AI processes that are in place that we have available, like our communicator, like our real-time interoperability, like our transcription translations, where it is accepting that data in, and it's, even our non-emergency call automation, right? Like this is helping take that pressure off of your teams a little bit because it's taking those calls ahead of time, it's listening, and it's talking as though it's a real person. Which, by the way, when I first heard that, it was like, that is creepy. But also, if your citizens don't feel that they're getting the same level of care, because that they don't want is the phone tree. And I think that there's this common misconception from our citizens, from our general public who don't understand IA at its core. IA, look what I just did, AI. Let me tell you, I just had a conversation about IA the other day. That's why I'm there. It's in my brain. AI at its core, like when they're thinking about it, they're thinking about it in that phone tree sense, that bot sense, that like, where you're like on the representative, you're like screaming at the thing because you want to talk to a human. But if your AI is good enough, it should be able to take and chug that information and understand it just as a human would, because we've developed it. And that's what we've done with Harmony, right? Is like we've had Harmony for a while and we keep having Harmony adjust and change and learn and listen. And it's like when you say those things, people get really scared. They get scared that like we're like, this is going to be the next Terminator. And like when you talk to Martin V on our team, he is incredible because he makes you not scared. And we should have him on. Oh, he makes you really not scared of the process because it's not sentient. It's not learning. It's not going to do its own thing. It is going to support and it's going to learn the expectation as long as we keep that going. And that is the point of what this next generation of 911 looks like, because now those original next gen conversations are no longer valid. Next gen is already here. The technology is already here. And now how do we implement it correctly? And how do we support the people who are the decision makers, the stakeholders that are deciding what processes to put in place for their teams, what software, what companies, what vendors to bring in that are doing it correctly for what their citizens need, and supporting the teams to like, there are governments out there who have put no AI clauses into their policies where it's like, we're not accepting it on an administrative level, like this won't be allowed in our jurisdictions. But it's like, it's here. So how do we thoughtfully use it and adapt to it and also pick the right things and help them understand it better and pick it? Because I think there's like this distrust a little bit because of what we've been experiencing in that bot, where now it's not that. And now we have to, like, the tech is here. Your citizens are eventually going to expect a certain level of service. So now how do we get it thoughtfully and accurately and correct? Like, and that I think is what Rapid SOS is working towards, is like to take the Dr. Robbies of the world and show them that it's not as scary, and adopt those processes like the Dr. Al Hashimi's who's willing to try. And it's like, that's what we need, are those people that are willing to try
Right.
and help us develop it better. And then also get the naysayers to kind of come in and trust it a little bit, and allow us to build it correctly for them.
Dude, well done. Well done. Yeah, exactly. No, you are fully correct. And I know, Brett, you have to get going here. You got a meeting coming up. So as we're going into the wrap up of this portion with you, one, what are your thoughts on what Keely said here? And also, what is your outlook, especially with everything that you do and that you've experienced in life? Like, what is your outlook on whether it be AI or the technology that's coming out here, just going into the future?
Yeah. So when I talk to healthcare executives, I do get a lot of the trust questions, and they're valid questions. And you need to proceed responsibly with the appropriate governance, privacy, regulatory constraints. I shouldn't say constraints, but so that's obviously always top of mind. What I would say is that, like Martin would likely say, Keely, if I had to guess, a lot of this is just anthropological human nature resistance to change. And I've lived through this a couple of times. So I started my career in production, television production, actually. And it was during the advent of small format digital cameras and digital devices, digital tape. We started in tape, and then we're going to digital. And I always remember, we'd bring this, we were pretty innovative at the time, and we would bring this to the production crews, and they'd be on a live show, and they'd be freaking out about the digital because they didn't have their tape, which was more reliable. Okay. And at the time, what I remember thinking is the error rates of the tape kind of getting, spooled up or having an error were sort of at that time higher than the digital. It was just the familiarity that they were freaked out about. And, so getting over that hurdle and getting to a place where you're more comfortable with it, is the challenge we're going through right now. So the example I always use when I'm talking to people who aren't as familiar with AI is, you'll go on a ChatGPT or a Gemini or Copilot, and you'll ask it a question. It comes up with the answer in 2 seconds, and that's hard to trust. It's almost like our human instincts are hard to trust. They're doing that much processing in the same amount of time. But then I invite people to think about, what if you had 7 billion people of the globe on a Zoom and you ask the question? You get the answer just as quickly because you've just aggregated all those minds at the same time, which is effectively what AI and these large language models are doing. So if you sort of change the way you think about it, similar to when social networking started. When Facebook started, human behavior has always been such that, hey, Ricardo, hey, Keely, where are you from? Who do you know? And we get to know each other, and it just takes a long time. But when that information is already there, you're making those connections just faster. It's just leveraging the processing. So it's not changing natural human behavior. It's just accelerating the processing of it. So I think if you think about it from that perspective, and again, governance, privacy, accuracy checks, so important. We're talking about, patient lives here in healthcare. It's a high stakes. But I think we will get to the point, probably sooner than later, where it's more accepted. And it's not threatening to be the doctor. In some low acuity cases, maybe it's going to do that. I think it's going to be great for triaging. Where should this patient be getting care? Why? What's best for him or her as sort of guidance? I don't think you're going to necessarily replace the human interaction and need for that and empathy and things like that. But I do think people get more and more comfortable, and it'll be beneficial to everyone. And I think, and as far as my outlook, Ricardo, excitement. I think I have an optimistic outlook. I think it's going to improve a lot of things.
Perfect. Heck yeah. This has been awesome. An excellent conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us again. This was a lot of fun, and I appreciate the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be with you guys.
We will check you later. I'm sure we'll send some messages later on Slack or something, but you can, I'll drop you down here as you go to your meeting, and we'll go in and wrap this up. But again, thank you very much, and we will talk to you soon. And for Keely, bro, sure, this has been an excellent one as always. It's been a lot of fun. And as you were talking about AI and just all of this stuff that is coming up, one thing I want to mention as well is that Rapid SOS has Innovation Day coming up on April 29th. And there's a lot of stuff that is going to be talked about, and you do not want to miss it. But as you were talking about, people being kind of, afraid in a sense of AI and the different things that are coming up, I want to play something here really quick. And I'm playing this because it was posted on social media already. And let me post this up really quick. This is a podcast that the CEO of Rapid SOS was on, Michael Martin, and he talks about AI as kind of like a co-pilot, the good of AI. So let me play this here really quick.
Talk to me about the human side of AI.
AI is never going to replace the heroic work of public safety. But we do think that AI can serve like a co-pilot or an assistant to our public safety telecommunicators, almost like in the aviation sense of a word, where it's the captain's job to stick that landing. And the co-pilot's job is to read all the periphery sensors and feed only the most important information into that skilled captain's hands. And that is what Rapid SOS Harmony AI does, is it fuses together over 5 billion connected sensor feeds and feeds only the most important information, the verified alarms, that video clip that shows someone with the actual weapon in a school directly into the hands of 911 and first responders so that they can do the extraordinary human decision makings that save lives every single day in our communities.
Gotta love that. That is just a taste, just a little bit of what is going to be coming up. And I want to throw this on the screen here for those who are watching and listening. You can go to info.rapidsos.com/innovation-day-2026 and you can register now. I'm going to be creating another video to be putting out there as well, because if you are going to be at the Navigator conference, I'm going to be there not only doing the Imagine Listening session, which, dude, I would just say this really quick. I'm in a ballroom and I think there are like 7 seats left, which means there's going to be a lot of people in there for that session. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're going to be there, I will see you there. I'm also going to have a booth, and I believe it's either 501 or 505, but it's at the entrance. You walk in, you just go to the right, and I'm right on the left. So I'm right there up in front. But I am going to be recording short little videos as well. And if you record one with me, you might just see your video during the live Innovation Day event that Rapid SOS is putting on. So I just want to show you on the screen here really quick. Before we go into this wrap up here, this is what it looks like. So once you go to, again, info.rapidsos is right there on the screen.com/innovation-day-2026, you will see this right here. Easy peasy, register today, throw it in there, and it has all of the information that they're going to be talking about. You can scroll down and see even more, and you can also see this awesome video excuse me, that I will say also proud of as well, because I got to do the voiceover for it, which was really cool. So again, big thanks to Rapid SOS. Keely, what are your what's exciting you for Innovation Day that's coming up?
As somebody who came out of public sector, right? Like I was the director, and Innovation Day to me was always the day where like I got to learn. So my teams, they were heavy Rapid SOS users. They wouldn't actually log into their 911 terminals unless Rapid SOS was up first, right? So like the thing about Innovation Day is it gives your teams an opportunity to learn what Rapid SOS is capable of. So even if you're as an administrator, right, and you're curious about what Rapid SOS is doing, Innovation Day gives you that perspective, but it also gives your teams the same perspective, right? Like so that they can ask questions and be curious about the technology as it advances as well. And this is an opportunity for you to see live, because our Emily Ingram, she's amazing and she does this stuff live for us all the time. But you can see like what that connectivity looks like and how it all comes together. And that's what I'm excited about for that experience, is to be able to share that on like a national platform to show what it like, because it's almost like a national training day, like when you're looking
Right.
about it, it's like we're having this event live so that you can see in real time what it's doing. And I get so excited to see it and to watch it. And what's really crazy is that the Rapid SOS teams watch it too. Like, oh, you can catch the replay. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm sorry. We usually do go a little bit later. We were trying
Yeah,
to
we
go
do. We had to go earlier today.
so sorry, but yes, please catch the replay. It'll be out there. It's going to be on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, all the
Yeah.
places that Ricardo puts all this stuff up, and it's on Rapid SOS's socials as well. But yeah, Innovation Day for us, and if you can't make it, that's okay. Register anyway. You can go back and watch it after the fact. It's
Yep.
totally fine. But that's what I get excited for, is just being able to see it, and even as the team members here, we're curious too, right? Because we get to see all this stuff, but we'd like to see how we get to tell the world about what it is we're doing.
Amazing. A big thanks and shout out to Rapid SOS for inviting us to come along with all of this stuff that we've been doing, especially for Most Important Seconds. If you've not watched The Pit, make sure to check it out. There's only a few episodes left of this season, and it has been an excellent one. You can watch new episodes every Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on HBO Max, where it's streaming. And then again, for Rapid SOS, Safer Together, the leading AI company in public safety. Make sure to head over to info.rapidsos.com/innovation-day-2026, and you'll be able to register there. A reminder that we will not be going live next week because we all have some traveling stuff that's going on. If you're going to be in Missouri, I am emceeing an award ceremony over there, which is going to be awesome. And I'm also going to be teaching. The following week will be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and I will be at the Navigator Conference in Vegas. So we're going to try to do one that day. If not, it's going to be the following one, and it'll be our wrap up of everything that we've been doing, and we might have some special guests. So stay tuned for all of that. Keely, thank you very much as always, and we will see you all in the next one. Have a good day, everyone.
See you guys.